Hello and welcome to the Sober Data Show. I've been starting early and I just realized that the music was wrong. And that's a great start. Great start for a Friday. I was just sitting here and I was like, there are a couple minutes before the start. And then I asked in the chat if I should start early. And Glenn was like, yeah, let's get some exclusive content. And then I mess up the intro. Just kind of a bummer because I don't know. I feel like it doesn't get the juices flowing when I don't have my regular former off topic music. But that's just something to criticize me for, as we're going to be talking about criticism today, because I think we need to talk about that from a whole bunch of perspectives. And I told my good friend Scosmo earlier this week that he gave me the inspiration for today's topic, which I wrote down in my notebook. If you can see, Friday show criticizing Sorare, and yes, that is my handwriting. I talked to Scosmo a little bit about this previously, not like previously, like yesterday, just about what the conversation was going to be about. And I don't know if we're going to touch on everything that I think needs to be happening. I'm not here to like criticize different things about Sorare. I mean, that's not like the point. I'm sure we'll get there. But there are things that I think we need to discuss about criticizing Sorare. David said, I think Scosmo was a guest. Scosmo has been a guest. In fact, I believe Scosmo was a guest on this show like exactly a year ago, or like a year next week, because I go away for a week every August, happens to be next week. And I did some pre-recorded shows last year and I put them out throughout the week. I did not do that this week. Apologies for that. I'm not actually sorry for it. But Scosmo was on one of those shows. It was all about the show was all about dealing with traders. And I don't know if I think we did have all the bots back then, but it was Scosmo, it was Tuggy, and it was Haber on that show. So if you're really interested, just go back a year and check it out. Thanks everyone for coming in. Something happened with the live chat. I don't know what, because the first chat message that I see is DNP Donkey, who is claiming the silver medal on the podium. Then I have Bob Franklin, who thankfully liked on arrival. Shout out to Quinny for that. And then Malky said, I'll take the bronze, which I guess technically Malky is bronze if Bob got the silver, but DNP Donkey should be on the gold. But anyway, DNP Donkey, Bob Franklin, and Malky on the podium today. Major NFT, like Canada, I finished fourth just out of the medals. And Malky said, not even illicit drones could take you to the podium today. That's right. Mike Basson in the house, maybe listening. I don't know if it's live, but anyway. John Andrews, what's up? Glenn says a Barrios assist and he's not in any of my lineups is not how I intended the game week to start, but onwards and upwards. That's right. Onwards and upwards. Stefan, what's up? Ryan Dino, are the Friday shows scheduled earlier in the day so Laird can start his weekend sooner? So I actually would love all of the shows to be the exact same time every day. Just, I feel like from a scheduling perspective, it's easier. But a lot of times, because I don't do this show by myself most of the time, I'm kind of at the mercy of when people are free. And so it just doesn't always happen. Today's show, I don't know. I feel like we kind of have a groove here. It's noon my time. The reason this show is scheduled at this time, because it feels like it's the most appropriate time for Mike Basson to go out to his garden and enjoy a beer while he listens. And so that's why I do it. I don't want to do it earlier in the day because I'm working on my lineups until the deadline, which is 10 a.m. for me. And I guess I could do it like 1 hour after that. I give 2 just to like let people breathe a little bit. I'm a big proponent of like setting your lineups. And if you're able to do this, go out for a walk or just kind of clear your mind a little bit, because the hour leading up to the deadline, it can be pretty stressful. And so just letting yourself breathe a little bit. And then we come here, we all get together, we talk about some stuff, we celebrate whatever we can. And yeah, that's sort of the reason why the timing of this show is when it is. I'm happy to take any feedback of what, if you guys think. I'm not going to do any earlier. If anything, I would do like maybe an hour earlier, but like not too much earlier, because again, I'm not going to do anything like around the deadline. Also because I'm watching content. I'm watching Quinny and Harry on the deadline show from, the 2 hours to the deadline through the deadline. And so, yeah, if there's any time change, it'll be later. And then it's kind of like, who wants to do this for those who are in Europe? Do you really want to do this like in the, getting into your Friday night? I realize this is fun, but I don't know if it's like Friday night fun. But anyway, Peter, what's up? Thanks for coming in. Recomon, I was early today. ZM Star. See, and Blue Tomato said an early start isn't fair. So I was gonna wait, but you're here. That was here early. Recomon said, as someone that works in broadcast, never start early. Bad juju. All right. Well, and I messed up the intro when I did start early. So yeah, we'll never do that again. Don't worry. David Alves, what's up? Parrot Press in the house. Kev Hurd, Simo. So, Simo, you were on Quinny's like roundtable earlier this week, and he pronounced this Simo, and I got really self-conscious because I kind of just assumed you pronounced your last name Simmons, which is why I said Simo. But now please correct me. Andy, what's up? Always good to have another Andrew in the house. Maddie Sorare. Jeff C, thoughts on the U.S.? It's a bummer. I don't think they were heading for gold anyway. So 2 Bundesligas back. Appreciate we're all excited about that. Paul said, I guess that Dzień dobry from Poland. I guess that's Polish for hello or something. Wish they'd hurry up and announce Polish coverage so my Dino Hotic wasn't dead. I'm kind of hoping that we get that random Dino Hotic, like, oh, he's coming back. But we'll see. No Name Informer, hello, and very well welcome to you and your Dynamo Zagreb lineups. Kev Hurt said, all right, back on this time thing. Has to be 5 p.m. UK time for the Friday show. It's part of Sorare Legend now. Wow. Okay. Vita also speaking the Polish. Skazmo, I'm joining you in the garden with a beer. Let's go. Same garden? Or just like mutual, unique gardens or whatever it is. Red or Dead, what's up? Gosh, there's a lot of Polish in the chat and I don't speak Polish. Gavin Ty, what's up? Gator Guy in the house. ATX Mix, is that like Austin Mix? He said that music wrecked the vibe. I agree. I agree. Hopefully we can recover. Simo said, trying to work out how to explain in text form. Like, is it SIM or is it like Javi Simon, which I heard throughout the Euro coverage. Ryan Dino, where is the most surprising place people watch the Sorare data shows from? Oh, I'm glad you said that, Ryan. I assume your name is Ryan since it's Ryan Dino. The ones, so we have S King, who's from like South Africa, and there was somebody was from like Nigeria the other day. And I like this idea of people like checking in, saying hi, and like saying where they're from. I think Nellis did that on a video once, or he did something that like he put on a map, like where everybody was checking in from. And I think that's really fun. Genesis, I've become a full U23 DGen again, and I'm loving it. That's what it's all about. And Ricomon getting his pump in. I'm listening to it in the gym. That's what I like to hear. Get it in. So yeah, just I mentioned it very briefly before. I'm going to mention it again right now. No shows next week. I know there were a bunch of people who were like, oh, give the keys to Sean or let Andy do something. And then Keith was giving me a hard time. He's like, hey, let me do a show with Andy. And then Keith was like, oh, wait, I'm off for half the week. So I highly recommend anyone that you think should be on a show, go talk to Harry, and maybe Harry will host you. He's good at that stuff. No Name said, I watched once from a toy. I don't know what that is. Is that somewhere where something I shouldn't have even put on the screen and mentioned it? 93 acres, managed my first ever limited podium with a DC United stack. So no Sorare criticism from me today from Ireland. Pete Stoyanov, where were you with the DC United stack not winning, huh? Anyway, Mitchie Deer store. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Sorare criticism, emailing to ask about coverage in Killy versus Circle Conference League to be told this is a Scottish game and Scottish teams are not covered on Sorare. That's poor. That's poor. But that's not what we're here. We're not here to like air our grievances against Sorare, because there are grievances. There are grievances. I'll put it that way. So there are two ways that I wanted to talk about this. I meant to write both of them down, but my notebook wasn't near me. And so it's all up here. It's all like here, and we need to get it here and then out so that I can actually talk about it. So, the toilet. Got it. That's the toy. Okay. So let's start with this. Everyone who plays Sorare, and I assume everyone who works at Sorare, want Sorare to thrive. How it thrives is up for debate and discussion, but there's no way to believe reasonably that the people who work at Sorare don't want it to be the best it could possibly be. And sorry, I'm totally thrown off here because Simo said the way Quinny pronounces my surname is technically correct, but the vast majority say it the same as you, which I'm cool with and kind of prefer it actually. So, see, man, that's weird. It's weird that you like prefer pronouncing it incorrectly. But I'm going to have to say Simo now from now on because I prefer to be correct. Although I actually prefer what people, I don't know. I'm so thrown off that I now can't even think of what to do. Hussein says, it's a good idea for someone who only plays limited to get 5 cheap rare cards just to get essence from boxes and craft rare players. No. I mean, if it makes you happy, go nuts. But I don't think you can get, enough essence. I mean, I guess you can get enough essence just from buying cards, but that doesn't seem like it's worth it. I might just call you Mark and save the embarrassment of Simmons versus Simons. Rico Mount said I kept saying both ways. Yeah, let's just call him Mark. Mark with a C, not with a K. Which is pronounced Mark. Anyway. So let's go to that. Everybody in the Sorare community wants Sorare to succeed. And anyone who like is actively trying to not have it succeed, I think is probably not actually a big part of the community. So let's start with that, because I think of a lot of the criticism that comes from Sorare managers about Sorare is kind of with this undertone of like, we know better, and that the people who work at Sorare don't know, or that they don't want this to be as successful as we do, which is absurd. And let's just like get that on the table right now. Now, I'm not saying that like everybody is good, like everybody at their job is good. And so it's possible. Sorare have like dozens, maybe there's still hundreds of employees. They can't all be good. It just doesn't work out that way. We don't know which ones are good because we don't even know who these people are for the most part. But you have to, even if they're not good at their job, surely they are there hoping that Sorare becomes as great as possible. Now, I'm not saying they have all the answers, but I think every so often there is this insulting undertone that everyone who works there just doesn't get it and doesn't want it to succeed. And so let's throw that out. We can stop that. And so Scosmo brings up this point that like success for Sorare doesn't necessarily mean success for the user. I think it's really hard for a company to be like very successful if the users are not happy and successful. So what I think is a bit of a problem with the way that some people criticize Sorare is that their passion comes out in an insulting way. And that's not to say that what they're saying is bad. But I think that's Sorare. Like, I think there are a lot of people who work at Sorare who underestimate how passionate people are about this platform, meaning the users. And a lot of times criticism is taken in this personal way that feels insulting. And I think we all need to do a better job of not, I don't want to say of not crossing the line, because I don't think most people do. I think it's like a very tiny percentage of people. But there seems to be a general missing of missing is not the right word. I don't know how to say this nicely or eloquently. So I'll just say what is in my head at this point. It feels like Sorare managers who are critical of Sorare deliver this in a way in a way that they know better and that they care more. And so if you're somebody who works at Sorare, and I will say I have not spoken to anybody at Sorare about this, but it feels like they take this as like an attack on them. And it really has nothing to do with that. It's just that they are getting feedback and criticism from somebody who really wants this to succeed. And on the flip side, it feels like the Sorare manager feels they're talking to somebody who doesn't care. And they absolutely care. And they want it to succeed. They want all of this to succeed. And nobody has the answers because we don't know this. None of this has been done before. There's no blueprint to follow. And so when they try certain things or they announce they're going to do something and then the feedback comes back and they're like, all right, we're not going to do that. People are like, oh, I can't believe they changed their mind. It's like, there's nothing, we don't know what's right and wrong. It's totally new for everybody, users and employees. And so basically it feels like there is this passionate criticism that comes off as attacking, that is received as attacking, even though it's not at all. And at the same time, it comes with these guys don't know what they're doing or they don't care. And it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, I will say that there are clear examples of, and I see it mostly in like support things, people are looking for help and they get an answer that's like so obviously wrong. And that becomes a criticism, which I think is totally warranted. And I think that is something that Sorare have to improve on. Like, I think there are so many, what feels like so many kind of gray areas of this game. And a lot of the answers are just like black and white. And you're just like, your response really didn't answer my concern. And so but at the same time, it's like, these people are trying their best. And like, this is what the answers that they have that they can give. And we have to be a little more receptive of those. Sorry, I was talking a long time there and the chat was going pretty highly. And I don't think it's based on Simmons or Simons. Tom said, is the problem not allowing employees to play Sorare? Employees are allowed to play. They just can't play above rare. KB said bookies are solely successful because their users are unsuccessful. But they're unsuccessful, but they are happy. Or at least they're happy to keep playing. Skazma said there's a clear lack of engagement and discourse when legitimate and constructive criticism is put forward, so it escalates into anger and spills over. So I think this is the crux of it, that I don't think feedback, I don't know how Sorare deal with feedback, meaning when feedback is provided, is it, and it's usually in Discord. And I know that there are some people who prefer to use Discord because it's more of a private environment, that it's not Twitter where like the world can be like, hey, they see these like what come out as complaints. So I appreciate that. But I don't know if like every bit of feedback is then like passed along or it's just immediately responded to. And so the difficulty that I think a lot of Sorare managers get with feedback in Discord basically or on Twitter is a lot of times the responses are like the Sorare manager feels that they're just like being told that their concern isn't warranted. And I think that needs to be improved for sure. But like ultimately the none of the criticism that is given to Sorare is, well, I don't want to say none. Very little of the criticism that's presented to Sorare is done in a way where an agreement wants to be reached. A lot of it just comes off as complaints. You guys need to do this, and they're like, well, we can't do that, and they're like, well, that's stupid, and then now it's all gone. Like the point of criticism is to lead to a discussion about improving something, and very little of the criticism that I see is presented in a way to do that. It's just a like, you guys are wrong, fix it. And I think part of that is a vast majority of the feedback and criticism about Sorare is super selfish. It's like, you guys, instead of doing this, you guys really need to do it this way. And it needs to be that way because it benefits whoever says it the most. And that's not helpful at all. Like, it would be literally the equivalent of me being like, you guys need to have special competitions for people named Andrew Laird. And it's ridiculous that you don't have them. And like, that's the absurdity of some of this feedback. And I know Scosmo's sitting there and he's like, that's not what I did. And that's not what he did at all. But in fact, he's not the one I'm kind of subtweeting here. But it just seems like there's so much criticism because somebody's like, hey, this doesn't benefit me, so it has to be wrong. And then they find like the one other person it benefits, and they're like, see, everyone feels this way. Sorry. KB, this was minutes ago, said a lot of people are dishonest with themselves, disguising their own intentions for the better of the game. Totally agree. And you said this 5 minutes ago. Sorry. ZM Star said the happiest employees are working on MLB and NBA. No one cares enough to be vocal about those issues. You are totally wrong about that. There are some very passionate MLB and NBA users who are quite vocal on what they think Sorare should do to make them rich. Gia said, keep in mind that, quote, brainwashed corporate drones, unquote, don't care about the success of the company. Sorare need passionate people who believe in Sorare, not the drones at the lead positions in the company. I mean, who are these people? Like, do we know this? Like, who are these corporate drones? Vita said, there's also Twitter culture to speak first and think second, trying to understand why certain things are done certain ways help rationalize a lot of things. Yep, totally. Totally. Philip said, totally off topic, which is perfect for this show. Any Sorare NBA YouTube content to recommend and when to expect news about 24-25? I'm new in Sorare, looking to play NBA also, so just wondering. Team Hold is my favorite Sorare NBA content on YouTube, so I would definitely check that out. And I have no idea what the 24-25 plans are. So yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Sorare Soul said, do you secretly miss Jeremy Lavie and Gaka? Are they still going? Like, I don't follow them. Are they not trying to take us all down anymore? Scosmo said, there's just so much arrogance and contempt in the answers. They don't act like humans. I have so much understanding for the issues, but it's the attitude that gets me. So I think I've seen some of these like comments that Scosmo is referring to, and I do feel like um, sometimes the responses from Sorare make you feel that way, and I don't know if it's like a bad day thing. Like we all have bad days sometimes, but the there is a small bit of, and it's not, it depends on kind of the answers and what you get, but there is kind of like an occasional like we just know better, and it's tough to accept that when it doesn't feel like they actually know better. Um, let's see. The problem, who is this stylish? The problem is that the instantaneous nature of social media means people don't think before saying something. I don't think it's just all transparency or all instantaneous social media problems. Mike said the Sorare team are not transparent at all, which I don't think is. I think they tell us a lot what they can, and I think this is exactly right. Peter said there are a lot of legal headaches too, with a lot of potential ideas, and so meaning when people present them, but there are also a lot of legal issues with things that they do, and so everyone's like, or agreements that they have with other companies and or other teams. So we always want like more information, and they're just like, sorry, we can't really say anything because we kind of have an agreement. We're working on an agreement, and if we said anything, it could really jeopardize that. And we're like, it's ridiculous. Just tell us. And it's like they can't be completely transparent about everything. Hilo said, my biggest criticism is that no one, even Sorare, know what this game is going to be 12 months from now. So every change just feels like grasping at a continually dwindling supply of straws. So I get that totally. I think the problem is that every change requires a certain amount of time to see if it's going to work. It's the same thing with all of our galleries. Like we put our cards together, and we just need to give it some time to see if the idea works. And it seems like there are a lot of people in the community who are super reactive right away, and they won't accept like, let's just wait to see what happens. And a lot of times you just have to do this. If you do something once and you're just like, oh, okay, stick a fork in a outlet, nothing happens. You're like, all right, nothing ever happens. Do it again, and maybe something happens. It's a little different. And like, you just got to go through things and see if they work or not. That was a terrible analogy. I don't know where that came from. I don't even have an outlet in this room. Anyway. Lairdinho said, it's the same as a lot of companies where the information isn't transferred to the relevant people. Tweeting the CEO ideas and complaints can't be the best way to go. I mean, I feel like Gator Guy may have a different opinion about tweeting the CEO. Anyway, Scosmo said, optics matter so much. All we see on a daily basis, public facing, are the constant errors, material and immaterial. Then when someone tries to inform and feedback, it's met with pure arrogance. I think Scosmo has had a more significant negative experience, not like in Sora overall, but like literally a specific instance. So I don't think it's overall that drastic. But I do feel like the errors are they're not like they're concerning. Actually, they are. Like we get concerned as users when that happens. Mitchie said, I think 80% of the time Sorare are bang on, and if they aren't, they tend to fix it swiftly. However, when you're told something in a ticket response, which is so wrong and incorrect, that's a problem. Yeah. It does feel like and I think this is probably the case in most like support departments, that most of those people really don't have any idea what's going on. They're just hired to be like, hey, can you respond to these emails? Here are a bunch of answers here are our FAQs. I'm sure they apply to most of the questions. And we just hope for the best. like, I don't want to like let Sorare off the hook for that, but it should be better. Absolutely, it should be better. Marcus said, unrelated, which is another great name for a show. Do you know if Sorare merch is true to size? I don't know. I am 5'9" and 190 pounds, and I wear a large t-shirt from Sorare, if that helps. So we'll see. Andy, so I'm new to the game, engaged around 4 weeks ago and built up a decent gallery as a long-term FPL and past FIFA player, a lot of appeals. Firstly, welcome, Andy. Good luck. Oh yeah, look at that, Kev, right on cue. Yeah, I think it's a really appealing game. It's really fun. And yeah, I have so many questions for a new user. Anyway, Mike said, why do you think people complain? They want better for the game. No one is wanting us to just poop on the game as they have money in it and they want it to get better. So I get why they do it. I think there's a very big difference between complaining about it and providing criticism. And I think a lot of people think they're providing criticism when they're actually just complaining. And on the flip side, I think a lot of people who do provide criticism are met with a response as if they're just complaining, and that's not fair to the user either. And so there's it's not really a disconnect, but it's not fair to either side, because if the criticism is absorbed as a complaint, it's basically just brushed off, and nobody likes feeling brushed off. ZM said, going to your time aspect, they don't have the conviction to follow through on things at times. People complain and then things are changed or never implemented. Training grounds as an example. So the training thing was weird because you're right. There was like a very loud pushback on their idea. And I think looking back, there are a number of people who pushed back at the time and now are like, actually, maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. And I was a little disappointed how quickly they got off of it. I will say that I remember, was it 10% bonus for all the training ideas? Like, I felt like that was actually the more shocking part of the whole training thing. Whereas like the concept was actually kind of cool, but everybody focused so much on this training thing, 10% bonus. And that came fairly soon after collection bonuses, which were only 5%. And they were like, why is this twice? And it was almost like they focused on one part of it. And the result was like, all right, we'll just scrap the whole thing. And I'm not sure we needed to scrap the whole thing. But again, I was going to say, I'll have to go back and see what I said about it at the time. I can assure you I'm not going to do that. But it was just another thing in the game that I think wasn't as bad, but the response was so bad and people gave them credit. Like, a lot of users who didn't like it said they didn't like it, and then Sorare scrapped it. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, that's great. They listened to us. And yeah, Mike Baston apparently is getting ghosted here. Or what's the term when somebody like steals your identity? Anyway, Scosmo said there are some easy things they could do to bridge gaps. We still aren't getting proper video summary of announcements. We don't get any transparent Q&As with competent answers. So I think, hold on, let me catch up on the chat. Sorare Soul says, do you know if Sorare still privately approaches a subgroup of managers to soundboard ideas and get feedback? I don't know if they do it as a group. I do know, and I don't know. Like, I don't know if they had this Essence and Card Factory idea and surveyed a bunch of people and asked what they thought. I was not one of them, so that's why I don't know. So I don't know if they do or not. I do know that there are a few managers that people from Sorare talk to. And I sporadically talk to people at Sorare about different things. Usually it's not gameplay, related. But the I don't know if they have like focus groups or not. I do know it's like kind of tough to get like new people's um, feedback, because if you're like new into something, like you don't know a lot. And so they want to know, like, oh, what do you want to know? Do you do this? Do you do this? And you're just like, I don't know. I just got here. Like, let me figure this out first. And so getting appropriate feedback from like a vast part of your user base where it's like how we all play the game is very different. It's tough to get it all together. So to answer your question, I don't know, but maybe. Gia said, you talk to insiders, you know who is passionate and how many drones were hired. About the selfish recommendations, you're 100% right, especially some YouTubers and comment authors. I don't know who, you know who is passionate and how many drones were hired. I don't know how many, I don't even know what a drone means, but I don't, I don't know everybody who was hired at Sorare. And then I know that there are a lot of jobs at Sorare that we never know about, probably for the better. And not everybody, like, it doesn't even matter. Where do these answers take place in private? They're in Discord. Andy said, if you have a lot of questions, I'm happy to try to answer. Andy, yeah, we might have to get you on a stream if you're willing to do that. Peter said, I feel like a constant criticism is the announcement of an announcement. It feels like they're setting themselves up for failure. Let's tackle that one. So I think one of the reasons they do announcements of announcements is to get us ready. And I don't think that's bad. I actually think announcements of announcements are perfectly fine, particularly with the scope of their announcements. They tend to be quite large, and just dropping, hey, here's our new gameplay with no warning whatsoever is weird. And so saying, hey, we're changing everything and we're going to announce it next week, I think is perfectly fine. In fact, I think it's ideal. And I think not announcing all of the details at once is also okay. Because even though they break up the announcements into different parts, it's still a lot to handle. And if we had gotten all 9 blog posts in a single blog post on one day, it's too much for people to be able to read and understand and digest. Selfishly, it gives me something to talk about for a week before we get the more details. The criticism I have is it feels like the second parts of the announcements, or at least everything after the first part, was done after the first one was announced, instead of basically having all of your announcements ready at the start and putting them out in pieces. And it doesn't help when you have one person in Discord from Sorare saying, yes, it's coming today, and another person on Twitter saying it'll be tomorrow, and then it doesn't come until the day after that. I think is bad. And I think being more aligned to your public facing, like having your public facing people more aligned is really important. And so the, like, Peter was, when the new announcement came, like the new gameplay, and they're like, yeah, we're going to give essence to everyone who says the word essence. And Peter's like, man, it seems like a lot. Do we know how much is in the box? And they're like, yeah, we'll tell you. And then it doesn't come for a while. And again, gave me something to talk about, gave Peter something to worry about. But then it came out and we're kind of like, are you sure about this? And that are you sure comes about because either there were errors in the announcement or it came out 2 days later. And it just feels like it wasn't all done together. And it feels like that stuff should be done together. I feel like I've gone in like 17 different directions today. the intro music. I'm sorry. I just feel like I'm really unorganized today. Sorry, guys. Kev said, a lot of users want Sorare and all users to do well. Funny enough, the ones that moan on Twitter are the ones that want to profit and see it all burn. Yeah. Ricomon said the training thing had great potential. I think that the issue was the lack of information. We didn't know how it would work. So, like, I think what they announced, which was totally like a, hey, this is what we're thinking, was good. I actually think it was the 10% that threw them off. Like, I think the numbers were off, and scrapping the entire idea was, I mean, maybe they didn't. They did say did they say they canned it? Was that the word that they used? Anyway, Andy said, as a foot player, I came across through Nepenthez. As I didn't get how it worked, I left it. Oh, and I didn't get how it worked, so I left it. Came on board after the new £50 credit offer. See, it works, guys. See, it works. Anyway. Mark said, having dealt with them for Sorare Sevens and other bits, the guys in the community team are very good, but I don't think there is enough of them, especially now with a growing platform. It could be. Scosmo said, issue is they speak to people they know will answer largely in a way that blows smoke up their ass. They are quick to silence or ignore criticism, and the same happens with feedback groups in the past. I don't know. I don't know the feedback groups. I don't know anything about them. KB said, anyone can hook me up with the Discords. Never really Discord as a medium yet. You're probably better off. Yeah. Matthew said, my friend and I had a 45-minute discussion with a Sorare dev in April. It was quite an open discussion, and he asked us about what we thought about card parts, which we now know as Essence. Ooh, there you go. Peter said, I agree with you 100%, Laird, which I will screenshot right now. And I don't even know what I said, but save that one. Thank you. Mark said, maybe the guy running the Twitters in Paris and the one running the Discord is in New York. I mean, it could be, but there shouldn't be a disconnect on stuff like when an announcement is coming. Yeah, Ricomon, you're right. Starting early was bad. I'll never do it again. This is a funny line that I won't say out loud. Here we go. GS, drones, employees who are not passionate, hired upon company expansion and just quietly say yes, boss, to everything and let the ship sink while milking the pay without speaking up about issues. I feel like Sorare is not the kind of company that you would just like randomly join without being passionate about it. But I mean, people need jobs. I don't know. Mitchie said, as someone who is down a lot of money on Sorare, any advice on making the most of the game? Sometimes it's hard to see behind the anger on Twitter. I feel like we've done a show on this. Was that maybe with Gator Guy? I think you just need to do the best you can to forget about the money you have spent and focus more on the money you can win. Just from a mental standpoint, to like make yourself not miserable. Funkmaster said training was the worst idea ever. The game is already too complicated. Why complicate it more? See, I'm glad we all agree. Pigus said they're still a little amateur in places, but they do seem to take user feedback on board and make changes. Maybe a little slow at times, but could be a lot worse. So they are amateur, though. Like they run a company that they run a platform that has never been done before and has only been around for 5 years. And they constantly have to deal with things that no other company has had to deal with. Like people like comment about like, oh, they're like trailblazers, but like they literally are. And we have to remember that. Sokka forward unique going in 25 minutes. That's fun. No, I'm not buying it. Lairdinho said probably a different conversation when talking to a dev focused on how something particularly works as opposed to someone talking an overall view on game development. They're both important though. Like yeah. Scosmo said they're not amateur, or at least I hope not. The platform is immature, but the people building and running it should be best in class professionals. Okay, that's fair. Immature isn't a more appropriate word than amateur. And also like the people running it should be best in class. Like I'm sure they want them to be. That doesn't mean that the people who are best in class want to work for a fantasy sports company. Maybe they want to work on cash payments for MasterCard. I mean, who knows? KB said, the deeper engaged you get with the game community, or rather social media, I feel the less you are able to enjoy it. I remember EggSwapBot being on Twitter for a day saying he was stressed out already. Yeah, I mean, I deal with stress differently than other people. And so I struggle to I struggle to have an opinion on like helping people deal with stress, because my advice is like, just don't worry about it. Like what you're worrying about right now, like you can't do anything about it. So you need to stop worrying about it. And people don't want to hear that. But it's like what I do to myself. And so that's the only way I can help with that. Lairdinho said, anyone who claimed the Star coins and the hassle it was should hopefully now realize how much Sorare have made things smooth. I wish I got that Stark drop. Yeah, sorry, I had some. Why blame Sorare when you can blame yourself? And there's no like blame. It's just like I think both sides of the criticism world need to recognize that the other side doesn't hate you. And maybe it's as simple as that. I think Sorare need to do a better job of understanding why people are passionately criticizing them. And I think the people who are passionately criticizing need to realize that they're delivering that criticism to people who do want to have this be the best platform ever. And sometimes I think we lose that. And then it just becomes bickering and nobody wins. Except maybe Nicola, because we keep buying cards. Anyway, Ryan said there's an underlying frustration in the community too because of the amount of money many people have lost. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think it's really difficult for people to see how much their galleries used to be worth and what they're worth now and not get a little upset. The problem is that all of their ideas, and that I don't want to like put everybody into this bucket, but there is a contingent of users on this platform whose gallery values were very high at one point and now are very low. Whether they're more or less than what they put in doesn't matter. At one point it was a lot and now it's not a lot. And all of their ideas revolve around their number going back up. Now, some good ideas can come out of that, but most of the ideas are not good. And it just creates this resentment between them and Sorare and them, when maybe they have a good idea and they go to Sorare, and then whoever's reading it from Sorare is like, oh, this is the person that hates us, and they don't even listen. It's like whatever. It's not the boy who cried wolf, but it's basically that idea that they're not going to listen to you because all you've done is yell at them that they need to make changes that really just benefit you. And instead, if we're just a little more critical about it, but at the same time, I think Sorare still have a responsibility to listen to every piece of criticism. Absolutely. Like they should not be blowing anybody's criticism off. They should know how many people want the same idea, whether it's a good idea or not. I mean, if literally all of us were like, we want cap 240 threshold, well, we just want threshold back. Like, they know that. They're not going to do that. But like, we would all say, yeah, 250 and 205 and all-star, let's do it. We want that. That doesn't make it a good idea. Mike said, is it still a case of there is a divide between what Sorare think we want and what we think Sorare should be providing us with? So I think you could even add two more parts of this. I think there's what Sorare thinks we want, what we think we want, what we think Sorare thinks we want, and what Sorare thinks we think they want to do. If that makes any sense whatsoever. For how much feedback they get and criticism, surely at some point they're like, okay, this is what a lot of users want. And so they start developing things based off of that, when maybe it's actually not what most people want or is good, but they're just like, oh, I think that's what they would want. But that's probably what the point of focus groups. And again, I don't know if they do. I'm not in a focus group. I would happily be in one. KB said, when I see people still crying about losing money 2 years ago, yet consume the game like it never happened, but all they do is spread negativity, I can't help but feel annoyed. Like, what are you doing? I mean, people are upset that they lost their money. I get it. Kelly said, if you play Sorare, you got to accept this. All card prices are approaching zero, even before the player's career ends. Holding is bad. But they're collectibles. Ryan said, the thing is, if we go back to a 37-year-old Japanese goalkeeper costing 800 pounds, then it's not fun either. I'm going to pull up my Shusaku Nishikawa. Not Nishikawa, excuse me. Misaki Higashiguchi, who, for those of you who don't know, is a Lairdinho club legend. Let's see. $935 I paid for he was 33 at the time, I guess. 33-year-old J-League goalie. I don't think that was not fun. But I won. He was in the lineup for my first card win ever. Joan Umari. First card I ever won, right there. And the first time I ever won a competition. And I won Carlos Heel. Club legend. Misaki Higashiguchi. Anyway. Scosmo said, I just want them to incentivize super rare. Aside from that, I have no issue how they do it with gameplay construction. Does anybody want to guess what scarcity Scosmo plays? I would also like super rare to be better. Hyla said, the ideal scenarios are at odds is the real divide. Users want to be able to use classic cards to play the entire platform. So we want new users and old users to have to continually spend money. It's a bit of a catch-22. I agree. Hatligen saying hi from Norway. Let's go. But you're off. I think Sorare are doing great, but that's probably a hot take. Oh, maybe not. Piggy said, wait until the current bubble with in-season cards pop and people paying 800 pounds for a new in-season card are selling it for 100 pounds in 6 months. We'll have a few complainers appear again. I mean, people who do that understand how the game works. The idea is that you were supposed to use that 800-pound card to win cash. KB said, I get it as well, but bitching about it for years and having this vengeance mindset won't make you get your money back. That I completely agree with. And so I don't know. It's like the way that I try to live my own life is to just not be vengeful and try to be mostly positive about things. And I try to passionately care about things I can control, and the things that I have no control over, I accept that, and I just try to deal with it how I can. Like getting angry or otherwise upset about things you have no control over. You can say like, I don't have any control over Sorare and all this stuff. And like, you have the control to just not play anymore. If this is not fun for you, I think it's just not the game for you. And that's okay. But you can get, and then you're going to get angry that you're like, well, I had $10,000 and now I have $8. And it's like, that's not changing whether you are angry or not. Chris said, people like to say they're selling up, but most never do because the game is too fun. Also, they're selling down anyway. So Nixon said Ichimori is superior, sadly. Yeah, I know that Higashiguchi is gone, but he'll always be special place. Major NFT said, I can eat for a year what I paid for Doosan. Yeah, same. And you can feel it in every word they say about Sorare, just negativity fueled by bitterness. So on that, I think that there are viable complaints or criticism from people, and it comes out as if they're being bitter and negative, and they kind of like lose their, I don't want to say like their credibility, but it is kind of a bummer when all of a sudden you're kind of known as somebody who is like overly bitter and negative, and then you have a good idea and everyone's like, whatever, like we don't want to listen to you because you're just that negative guy. Timbo, what's up? Thanks for coming in from Twitch. Super Rare is just a complete minefield. Yeah. Agreed. John Andrews Umari was my first ever reward too. Get out of here. How about that? Yes, lady name special weekly, please. Anyway, Malky said, I generally don't have many complaints about Sorare, but one thing, but, oh, what happened back there? Sorry, video. Sorry, but one thing I didn't like was when they incentivized collecting and therefore holding cards long-term, but short-term in season is incentivized too. Why can't you do both? Or if you're incentive, you can play just classic where you're incentivized to hold cards and don't even worry about it in season. Matthew said, this kind of feels like people being in a bowling league, then complaining that at the end of the season, their shoes and ball aren't worth as much. What is the secondary market for bowling sneakers, bowling shoes? I don't know why I called them sneakers. Anyway. Sorry, I'm still behind on the chat. What we got? Yeah. Kev said, it's the constant changes that annoy me. Can't really strategize when they keep changing it. Hopefully we have a long-term model now, though. I think the reason they were changing it is because what they were doing didn't work. And they were quick enough to realize that it didn't work and made the adjustments. Like the last thing you want is them to keep going on it. As I was just saying, it takes time. I don't think there are constant changes. I think we're just like so hyper focused on every single change that it feels like they're constantly, but they're really not. And Ryan said, this is like bowling. We're all in the gutter now. Yeah, and Piggy said the market liquidity on bowling shoes is really bad. So like they're basically super rares. Caccini said, I've lost my fair share of money on Sorare. My sanity hinges on the idea that if you need to make money, focus your energy on your career. The energy I put into Sorare is just for me. So it's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with Gator Guy earlier today, and Peter was part of it as well. And I'm not going to get into it because it's going to be a stream coming up soon, not next week because I'm off next week. But basically about that, about it's almost like what's the point of money on Sorare and the time and all of that stuff? And um, yeah, that's it. You got that one, Hachini. It's too late at this point for me to jump in. Um, Bob Flynn. Bob Flynn, what's up? Most people don't adjust to change and lose as a result. Keep moving, win more. So this is super, super important, particularly because we're just went through a long transition phase on Sorare where the game drastically changed for the first time in years and is going to change slightly more now that we have 2 more weeks of this. The biggest complaints that from the new changes were from the people who were successful in a game model that did not work for the company running it. They were going to play that game until it went to 0 and it was going to go to 0 faster than they could play it. And the loudest voices of how bad these changes were those people who did not adjust, who sat back and said, I'll just wait to see what happens. And then when they fell behind, it was the game's fault. Now, a lot of people who did this have realized that now. And some have looked at it and said, okay, I don't want to play this new game. And that's cool. Like, nobody's making you play this game. But there is a large number of people who have openly complained about this game, and it's because they were affected the most in terms of like where their gallery was, and then didn't make any adjustments whatsoever. Yeah, I do need to get Bob on more streams. You're right. Hilo said, if you're not one of like 50 users, the only reason you should still be here is mainly fun. Why is it not everybody? Mike said, the point of time spent on Sorare is time spent not having to listen to our wives or girlfriends yak all day about pointless shit. This is a great point. Kev said, I think it deliberately wasn't a long-term model, though. Threshold, et cetera, was designed to lure people in, but was never sustainable. Then you look at tier 4s and 5s having 0 value without specials. So that's the point, though. Well, I disagree. I actually think that there was a thought that was a long-term model and that it could be sustainable. And then they realized, based on market factors and user growth and all of that it wasn't sustainable. And then they changed the game to make it sustainable. So like, that's the point. That's why the game changed. John Andrews wants to add delaying doing actual work. Yeah. John Andrews, keep moving, win more sounds like a Sorare data stream incoming with Bob's face on the thumbnail. Hold on, let me write that down. Keep moving, win more. Okay. Bob, I will be in touch. What would I do without this Sorare Play Offs notebook and pen, which I broke the handle of? Hilo said, some people can still win real money, but the juice has been squeezed for a while now for the rest of us. For most of us, yeah. Angus said, the new game is 100x better. GS, are you 100% sure it is sustainable now? Heavens no. We won't know for a while. Glenn said, as Laird said at the beginning of the stream, they're the first to ever do this. There is no blueprint. There was always going to be mistakes made. That's the risk you take being an early adopter. Yeah. Agreed, Glenn, since I said the same thing. KB said, people view the bottom of the bottom, the lowest thing you can win, as too much of a prize rather than a consolation prize. Yeah. Sanchez said, any NFT project that survived the bear market will go stronger in the next years. Yeah. But we're not an NFT project anymore. Nixon said, I have to say, Sorare Data is a great site to look like I'm being productive at uni while not being at all productive. It's not that you're not being productive. You're just being productive on something else. Nanzo said, most criticisms I see are Sorare's bait and switch tactics. Example, card utility forever nerfed, tier zeros being only stars nerfed, clickbait prize pools. These are pretty legit grievances. So I think they're legit grievances, but they're all understandable tactics. Card utility forever. Like, is it nerfed because the prizes were nerfed? Like, you can still use your cards forever, right? And you can say, like, oh, there are fewer places to play them in season. And it's like, well, the in-season competitions didn't exist. So, like, previously, it's like if you have this many, you have, 3 game modes, and then they add 2 more, and everyone's like, oh man, we lost those 3. And you're just like, no, they're still there. Clickbait prize pools, I think, are interesting. That's an interesting conversation because they basically exist in other platforms and they work. Like, that they work is kind of a poor phrasing, but like most people prefer to compete for big top prizes because they don't want to take the time to realize that from like an ROI perspective, you would rather smaller top prize and further payouts. But the actual like clickbait, and I'm saying that in terms of like the in season, I will say that the clickbait there is a total validity to clickbait prize pools if you're talking about players who are in the star pool and then removed later. Like card prize pools, I think are like, it's difficult for me to speak nicely about card prize pools because they're so like, it's the only thing about Sorare that legitimately makes me feel rage. That showing a prize pool when we enter a competition and then changing it is like so amazingly rage inducing because you're basically just you're moving the goalposts. Maybe we'll talk about that later, not like today, but it's literally the equivalent of them being like, hey, top prize is 10 grand this week. And then you enter all your contests and you're like, I'm going for that 10 grand. And then when the game week is like close to ending, they're like, oh, by the way, it's $500. And you're like, yeah. Anyway, this is how I feel, Ryan. Apart from the in-season comps, there's no change to utility for classic cards. And we knew that they were going to run out of rewards at some point. Like, this has been a conversation for years. Like, oh my God, when there are 1 million users, like, how are they going to do rewards? They don't have enough cards. Yeah. Hachini said, in hindsight, it looks like bait and switch, but the intention is important and we don't know that, which is probably back to the transparency thing. That's like something they should be more transparent on. John said, Sorare decisions make me think about decisions my toddler makes. She can make great choices all day, but I know eventually she'll do something that you just think, what the fuck have you just done and why? Adults do that. It's not even toddlers. Malky said, I genuinely believe the blogs are so long and complicated to make people just give up and buy Prem cards. That's not fair, but it's also kind of funny. Hachini said, my point is that the term bait and switch implies that they had intended for their original model to fail. That feels doubtful, but not impossible, I guess. Saka unique 2x of Foden. That seems right to me. So what does that mean it went for? Bukayo Saka. Let's see. Good player. Did Pranksy buy it? Oh, he didn't. Oh, he has one. That's why. MTF BWY. That's a big account. Sorry, I was hiding it from you. Schlotterbeck unique, Saka uniques, Musiala, Mbappe, super rares. Fun card. Mike said, "Isn't what the fuck have you done and why?" The instant response to a Tony Watts strategy change tweet. Yeah. Peter, I struggled with jealousy years ago. I could have been Zora or YNWA if I was early. Jealousy is a bad place to be if you want the platform to get better. Agreed. GS said, I strongly believe the new model is not sustainable, also known as unsustainable. They should just pay you to collect new ideas for next big change to save the platform and in-season price hype ends. So the benefit with what they're doing now is that they're selling all of their cards when the new season hype is peak. So I think it's much more sustainable. I have no idea if it's sustainable or not, though. No clue. And I don't think anybody, nobody knows. That's why we just got to give it some time. And if it's not, and if they get to a point where they're like, okay, this is unsustainable, then they start talking about changes. And then they have to present it in a way they were like, hey, this is why this doesn't work for us. So we're thinking of changing it this way. And then we all lose our shit and keep playing. Right? All right, I'm going to go for the next 10 days. Don't worry. 4 of those are weekend days. So I'll be back on Monday the 12th. Does that seem right? Let's see. Yeah, I'll be back Monday the 12th. Hopefully nice and relaxed. I am going to have to do lineups though while I'm gone, which, but we'll see. And then, yeah. So I would say to everybody over the next week, when you normally watch Sorare Data content, just go back, watch some old ones because there's some great ones. Maybe I was going to say, maybe I'll tweet some of my favorites. I'm not going to do that either. Let's be honest. But go check out all the other content creators if you haven't. It seems like some are coming back. Speaking of having good breaks, somebody's show surely should be coming back soon. Mark. Anyway, Peter said, watch the 5e stream from a few years ago. Was that like a how to build a gallery? Oh my God, we should watch that one. Oh man, that one. Peter said he rewatched it last week. When was that? How to build a 5 ETH gallery, I think is exactly what it was called. Let's see. It wasn't. Building a 5 ETH gallery from scratch was the name of the show. It was streamed 2 years ago. It was with me and Sean. 5 ETH then was worth $13,000. So it actually was less. And I just pulled it up, and JT Marcinkowski is on the screen. What were we thinking? Man. Anyway, make it a double back on Tuesday. Let's go. That's what we're talking about. So thank you to everybody for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. How many likes we have on this video? 45. Come on, guys. We can do better than this. Mike said, didn't you make a watch list of that? I probably did, and hopefully I deleted it because now it's like a 0.005 gallery. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go to all. It feels like now that we're coming, the European seasons are kind of back up and running, at least the ones we care about. Prem will come soon. More content creators are getting back. So just go out and appreciate all of that. Good luck this weekend and the midweek and all that stuff. Thank you for spending your time watching these shows. It means a lot to me. And yeah, let's go.